And this is an actual picture made on December 23rd, 2007 of the moonrise over Newark's Octagon earthworks, looking down the avenue of parallel walls connecting. So maybe the parallel walls define the limits left and right that they might expect to see the moon in. And this apparently is a picture of the observatory mound, 170 feet long, 12 feet high. Maybe it was designed so that at different times during that 18-year cycle, you would move right and left to position yourself correctly.
This was a center for a very different culture. Here, American Indians built the largest geometric earthwork complex in the world. Enormous enclosures, connected by walled roadways, were spread across more than 4 square miles. This was the most spectacular of many such earthworks, concentrated along the tributaries of the Ohio River, marking the people's beliefs, rituals, and sense of community. Today, only fragments remain. Although here at Newark, we can still walk among these vast shapes and feel how they direct our eyes and footsteps.
May be the best preserved of the geometric earthworks, not just in Newark, but anywhere in Ohio. It's a gigantic circular enclosure, 1,200 feet from crest to crest. 4 football fields would fit across it, end to end. The walls vary in height from 4 feet up to 14 at this monumental gateway. The design is typical of many earlier Adena earthworks, a ring with an interior ditch and a gateway opening to the east. But here, people coming from other parts of the complex would enter the most dramatic portal anywhere in their cultural world, a sign preparing them for the ceremonies at the circle's heart.
At the center of the Great Circle is an oddly shaped mound, nicknamed Eagle Mound by the first pioneers. When it was excavated in 1928, a pattern of post molds showed a long building with screen walls extending from it like 2 wings. Perhaps the screens hid secret proceedings for public view. Inside, a rectangular clay basin held fires, a sign of ritual activity. Scraps of shiny mica littered one end of the floor. When they were finished using the building, the people filled the fire basin with white sand and left little behind except a pair of copper shapes. They dismantled the wooden structure or burned it and covered its floor with earth. As often in this culture, such ritual mounding created a final sacred memorial to the structure's meaning.
Ceremonial approaches from water. Once inside, the people were channeled from one specialized enclosure to another. Archaeologist Brad Lepper.
So I think you could almost view elements, the different functionally specialized yet integrated elements of this site as components of a gigantic ritual machine. And movement through that site would have been a way of power flowing through that, or the people moving through it, the pilgrims, the priests, the shamans, moving through that site would in some ways be reenacting some fundamental cosmological cycles.
Dance and procession seem to be only 3 entry points.
The southern plateau was ringed first, then connected by a passage to a larger area to the north. Long parallel walls stretched out to the northeast. Many settlements were nearby. Centuries later, 2 small serpent effigies were built just across the river.
Is called the Great Gateway. Opening to this narrow ridge, it is the original north entrance of the oldest part of the enclosure. Passing in and out along the ridge would have taken the ancient visitors past mounds, crescents, and limestone pavements, as if to remember the first generations of ancient ancestors, perhaps the first who made this hilltop a sacred place and a shared monument. The paired crescent mounds also helped form this passage. Nearby was a mound that the archaeologist Moorhead called Torch Red. And in several more nearby, he found many bodies in disarray, as if thrown in and buried in a hurry.
Hopewell built several hilltop enclosures with similar features. Many of these were named forts by the Europeans when they found them, because it looked like they were built for defense. Later, though, people began to wonder. Fort Ancient is the largest and most complex of all these so-called forts. But these walls could not have been very effective in protecting us here from an attack for several reasons. First, these ditches were on the inside, so they could not work like a moat to keep outsiders away from the walls. Second, there are many open gateways, and there's no evidence that they were ever closed off. Finally, the perimeter here is so huge, far, far bigger than could ever be defended by the small populations who lived here. It seems they had something else in mind.
The ancients built probably their most revered sanctuary.
Hopewell.
Walls and ditches enclose 127 acres. To the north, they climb to the upper terrace. To the east is a perfect square. Water is on all sides. Archaeologists call this the type site, meaning they have named the whole culture after this location. It was Mordecai Hopewell's farm in the 1890s. Yet it is anything but typical. It is the largest of the geometric enclosures. It contains the smallest and the largest mounds. The most spectacular burials were found here, and the most astonishing deposits of precious objects. Not much is visible on the grounds today. Even so, in the summer of 2001, using advanced remote sensing instruments, National Park Service staff discovered a new circular earthwork out here among these mounds. The Paint and Scioto valleys are the heartland of this ancient culture, with the richest concentration of their geometric earthworks.
Great Serpent
On a
Mound.
slight slope near a set of ancient burial mounds, a great earthen serpent seems to slither westward. It is huge, beautiful, mysterious. If it were really to move, it would fall into the enormous natural crater which it faces. But this snake has rested here for 1,000 years, still staring precisely every June 21st into the summer solstice sunset. That alignment suggests that one of the effigy's purposes was to mark the turning of the year, so that planting and gathering and hunting could be planned. But the serpent certainly had other meanings for its builders, who were connected to the widespread Mississippian cultural world.